I think it greatly did, because as you see, Spain represents, tourism represents over 12.5% of GDP previous to the pandemic, and more than 13% of employment. Tourism last year in 2020 accounted for 5.5% of GDP, so it was a half of the previous mark in 2019. But employment only went down 5%. So the furlough schemes allowed the tourism workers to stay in place, the tourism industry to survive. So when the reopening of the tourism and the travel sector happened, we were ready to go.
Was the digital COVID certificate a game changer for you?
Definitely it was. We were at the forefront of countries that thought that we needed more coordination among nations to reopen travel. We launched an initiative also at the OECD level, also at the European Union level. I think you can see what a dramatic change it has meant for the travel sector. People have traveled this last summer season more confidently, not only because of the availability of vaccines, which was the real game changer, but also because people knew among the European Union member states what to expect when they wanted to travel. There was confidence in the system, and I think the EU travel now adopted by more than 50 countries, almost 60 countries. Not only the European Union countries, but also 33 other countries have adopted the European Union certificate, has proven the game changer for this pandemic situation.
Now, the change before December, when some restrictions came back, from your perspective, watching all of that, do you think that it has survived the crisis, or are there more questions to be asked of the system that came in last July?
I think that the new variant, Omicron, was unexpected by most people. Scientists had warned us that the pandemic was not over, that the evolution of the pandemic could go many ways, even with the vaccine, which was, as I said, the real game changer. But I think governments, businesses, citizens have learned a lot during these last 21 months. We have gone from fear and the unexpected and the unknown. We have gone to some type of management of the pandemic. We see things with much less fear. We know that we need to keep working on how to manage the pandemic, but we know that it's manageable. The restrictions, some countries, at least in some regions in Spain, for example, there was introduction of the COVID certificate to do certain activities and go certain places. But with over 90% of the population fully vaccinated, they proved they didn't help much. So they have abolished that restriction because most people are fully vaccinated. So it was not relevant for the control of the pandemic. I think that as we go into 2022, we're going to see a more drastic change in the management of the pandemic. We have learned how to prevent infections. We have learned that face masks are very relevant in the prevention of infections. And now we the citizens can take more informed decisions about our health. And I think that it's going to be that way as we progress. Governments will have, and businesses will have to give us information for us to take informed decisions about not only traveling, but other, type of decisions in our daily life. And in Spain, what we have done, and this has been a constant in the management of the pandemic. During the first wave of the pandemic in early 2020, we developed 21 guides to prevent infection in 21 different tourism activities. These guides were implemented during the pandemic, during the first wave of the pandemic when we were locked down, in the public and private sector, making tourism one of the safest activities to do in your daily life. Spain, which is a significant tourist destination in the world, we haven't had any of the big, waves or sparks or outbreaks in the tourism sector, in the tourism value chain. There have been outbreaks, but hardly any in a hotel, in a resort, in an airplane, in a museum. Most of those outbreaks have been in other routinary activities of our daily life. These 21 guides have now become international standards at ICO. Also, what we said, Spain needs to be coherent. So some destinations which are smaller, we have to remember that we received 84 million passengers tourists in 2019. We have a responsibility as one of the main tourist destinations in the world, as the favorite holiday destination for many people in Europe and elsewhere. Just a small parenthesis is we have a market share of more than 50% of international travel in many countries in the world. We needed to be consistent and coherent with the policies that we were taking. So some countries decided that they were going to open despite not having enough scientific evidence on how to open. Some other countries decided that it was very important to open regardless of other factors. What we said is and sometimes they took a step forward and then took a step backwards. What we decided is that once Spain took a step forward, we couldn't go backwards. It needed to be consistent. So last Fitur in May 2020, the president announced that Spain was going to be open to the rest of the world with one simple requirement: full vaccination. Fully vaccinated people could come to Spain from the rest of the world. There were exceptions. When the outbreak happened in India, when the outbreak happened, the new variant happened in Brazil or South Africa, but they were exceptions, very limited exceptions. This has proven a game changer as well, because the business, the tourism business or the trade knew what to expect from Spain. They knew they could open operations with Spain, and that there were not going to be changes every week, every month, every now and then. We were going to be consistent. And I think this is proven a very successful strategy, not only for 2020 and 2021, but especially for 22, 23, 24, as a destination that you can trust. And trust is going to be one of the words of the present and the future of tourism.